But I sold it with a 200-inch deer.
I was going to say, yeah.
There was a 200-inch deer on it.
Yeah, when you sold it.
And I never hunted that deer. And, the guy that bought it, that was part of the reason that he bought it, was because that deer was there.
All right, in this clip, we're talking with Bill Winke and who was in his corner during his heyday of buying and selling ground and building his dream farm in Iowa. We're talking about the farm he regrets selling the most and why it is so important to have 2 full-time jobs if you want to buy land. Hope you guys enjoy this. If you do, hit the like button and subscribe. Let's get right into it.
Who else was in your corner throughout this process, or sources of information? Or was it just a little bit of the hard knocks as well?
No, and it was hard knocks for sure, but the love of land, and I grew up with the love of land, that's why I loved hunting, was because you could go around the hillside and see what was around the next corner, and trout fishing, you see what's in the next pool, it's not the catching and the killing, it's the places that it takes you. So I think that was more of like the heart of it for me was I had such a love of land that I could see those pieces, and I was thinking about it all the time. Even as a kid growing up, it's like, man, sure would be fun to own, something like this. So there was always a vision out there. So I think I was creating the pieces in my own head, for years and years and years before I ever got to the point where I could actually do it. I think the other ones were some of the realtors that I made friends with, and one in particular was a guy named Rich Baugh with Whitetail Properties. So Rich came into Iowa about the time I was getting started, with buying recreational land. And, Rich and I kind of, compared notes a lot through the years, and he learned a bunch. I mean, Rich was, he didn't start out as a realtor. He was an engineer, and he became a realtor and became really, really good at it. We used Rich a lot, Larry and I did, because, he had a track record. He had a list of potential buyers. I mean, he was a guy that you could go to with a farm for sale, and it would be, it'd move pretty quick.
Right.
So, you'd think we could have sold our own, and we could have, but Rich could just do it quicker and more effective.
For more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And he had his hand on the right people, and he knew what people wanted. He knew what the value of properties were. So Rich went with me a lot when I looked at properties. He became the buying agent for me, and because he could tell me what that property was worth in today's market, so I could look at it and say, this looks pretty good. I like it. It sets up good for hunting. I like the neighborhood. It's got some timber value on it. And I'd say, okay, Rich, what is it worth in today's market? And he'd give me a number, and then I'd make an offer that was below that number, because we wanted to buy stuff that was undervalued and then bring it up to value. And if the market went up, so much the better. But if it didn't go up, we wanted to make money anyway.
Sure.
So there's, and again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm taking advantage of anybody, because we didn't. These weren't farms that we went and knocked on doors. These were all listed farms. Yep. This is what they were listed at. So we weren't trying to steal land from people. It was more, you've got this on the market for
fair
this
market
price.
value.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And I would feel a little bit uncomfortable if I was trying to come up on some, old lady or something and say, hey, I'll give you this for it, and then turn around and resell it.
Yeah.
That wouldn't felt good.
Send out a mailer, we'll buy land for cash with the number for it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
and I think that's important too, because I think there's absolutely some stigmas on quote unquote, I say flipping very loosely.
Yeah.
But turning land into new ownership and polishing up. I mean, you're providing the service at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you're not holding anybody's feet to the fire because they're listed. Right?
Yes.
We didn't have any leverage on these people.
Yeah.
All we had was the willingness to buy. They didn't have to sell to us.
You were buying and selling these farms that you liked because that was part of the due diligence. Like, do you regret selling some of those, or do you wish you would have kept them?
Yeah,
because you're trying to piece everything together. Yeah,
it's like we bought them because we loved them.
I
loved land. Everything I bought, I loved.
Yeah,
I mean, they were all cool.
Yeah,
and like even that 240 over there that I sold, and I won't say specifically exactly where that was, but it was the coolest piece of land I ever owned.
Really,
it was just an hour from our house. It was. But I sold it with a 200-inch deer.
I was going to say, yeah.
There was a 200-inch deer on it.
Yeah, when you sold it.
And I never hunted that deer. And, the guy that bought it, that was part of the reason that he bought it, was because that deer was there, Yep. But Rich sold that one. But he turned that 240 into over 1,000 acres in that neighborhood.
Wow.
By just buying.
It was a springboard.
Yeah. And he, he did, he just put his time in, it's like, but that's a great neighborhood now. They kill really big deer there. Some just world-class deer. And that one, I won't say that it got away because, I needed to sell it in order to buy something closer to home. But that was maybe the coolest farm I ever owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shifting gears just a little bit for someone to just break down in the most simplest form to get into the land game. One of the things that you mentioned was basically having full 2-time jobs, because people are saying, well, how are you doing this? Like, well, you can get a lot done when you have 2 full-time jobs.
That's right.
How important do you think that is to get going?
I think you have to have the down payment, obviously. And then if you're lucky, you know, whatever you want to call it, you do well on the first one, then you can step forward, you know, because the whole goal is to buy an undervalued property, bring it up to value one way or the other, and then sell it, and then take that lump and buy the next undervalued piece, you know, and you can start to grow that lump. You can still do it. You know, you just can't start with, you know, 200 acres or something, you know. I mean, whatever you can afford, you need to start there. That's because if you don't, it's like saying, you know, like planting trees. It's like, oh, you know, it takes too long for trees to grow. Well, here you are 20 years later, and you'd have 15, 20-foot tall trees there if you just planted them back when you said it takes too long. Right. You're gonna get older, you know, so you might as well start. You know, and that's where people get discouraged, I think, because they have to start small. Well, I mean, everything's relative. You know, you got to start.
See, and I think I'm 27, so I look at how you say it was like the good old days then, because I feel like no matter how far you go back, it's always the good old days. And so, although you could have done it at, you know, 2 or 3 times the speed of what we could do it,
that's right.
I think when I'm your age, I'm going to be like, oh, man, the good old days. It's going to take you 4 times what it could have done for me. Like it continues to compound in difficulty, but it's still easier than what it will be in the future.
And you need to do it. You're going to say, you know, why didn't I just do this? What if, or had I done this? You know, you guys got to have these regrets unless you actually do it.
Yeah.